Hello and welcome back to the AT Performance YouTube channel. It's Tom here, and in the last video you will have seen we took our GR Yaris on its first ever track day. An amazing day, we had so much fun. What a brilliant little car these are. We've now handed it back over to Lava Studios, who are going to install a front end paint protection film kit, Suntech product that they supply and fit. Also in a previous video, I talked about a car we had, which I would show you in a future video. Well, today's the day. So follow me outside and I'll show you what we've got. So if, like me, you were born in the 80s and you were mad about motorsport, the car I'm about to show you will definitely excite you. It's been a lifelong dream to have one of these, and it's finally here. So I'm sure most of you will recognise this. For me, total boyhood poster car from when Malcolm Wilson and all the other drivers, Carlos Sainz, Didier Auriol, all driving them in the 90s. This was a original Group A homologation rally car back in the days when the manufacturers had to make 2,500 of these as a minimum really for road use in order to be able to use them in competition. The concept actually came, it's a Sierra Cosworth chassis that they then fitted an Escort body shell to, but the only Escort parts are the front doors and the roof from memory. Everything else is bespoke. It is an Escort Cosworth, it's not just a Ford Escort. Finished in Pacifica Blue. This is a 1992 car, so it's one of the first. It is one of the big turbo cars, which have got the blue rocker cover on them. You might have seen some silver rocker cover cars. They're the later small turbo, which they did after they made the first 2,500. They then went to small turbo to make them more drivable, because truth be told, it doesn't really get going until 3,500 RPM. So you're almost waiting. There's a lot of turbo lag with this car. And that's kind of a characteristic of the cars of old that didn't have variable geometry turbos or twin turbos or bi-turbos. This was a single turbo car. So fitted with the original 16-inch wheels. This is just as it arrived, by the way. We haven't even washed it. We haven't touched it, except for changing the wheels. It was on 18-inch replicas. We've now refitted the 16-inch genuine wheels. The 18s did feel the arches better, but we're trying to return this to as standard as we can. Other than that, aside from some small tuning upgrades, this car is completely stock. So inside the car, it's very different to a modern day car. You've got this enormous transmission tunnel here, which almost occupies half of the floor space on the driver's side, which is housing the gearbox, the front prop shaft, which leads then to the differential at the front. It's a 5-speed manual with a lift-up reverse. I mean, again, something else you don't see these days. I mean, we've got cassette tape, no radio, but we've got a cassette. It's like going back in time. I mean, the dials themselves are very Ford Escort, which if you're old enough to have driven a Ford Escort, they're not a great place to be. But in the center here, we've got the turbo gauge, oil pressure and voltmeter, something that was kind of the quintessentially Cosworth thing, which they've carried forward onto a lot of RS cars. Like the modern Focus RS, the Mark III still has the 3 gauges up in the center like that. So the Escort Cosworth came in a couple of trim levels. One was like a motorsport car, which didn't have a sunroof, had the cloth seats, didn't have any front fog lights. This is classed as a luxe because it has the front fog lights, has the sunroof, but it doesn't have the leather. It does still have these hex design Recaro seats. And there were some other seats made that looked similar to this, but weren't genuine Recaros, that I think a company called Carman made during the 90s. So yeah, all in all, yet another car that I can't fit in very well, which is not unusual. But all in all, interior is very good. It's in pretty good shape. I mean, the Gator's a little bit tired, but it's a 28-year-old car, so We can't expect it to be brand new. Anyway, let me show you under the bonnet. The Escort Cosworth is powered by the 2-litre 16-valve YB engine, which I'm actually quite familiar with from my time in rallycross. A company called Julian Godfrey used to put these engines and drivetrains in Fiestas and Focuses and all sorts, and they're quite a reliable thing once they're built correctly. But anyway, this is the big turbo model. This is a T35 turbo. They then went to the T25 in the small turbo versions, but this is back to a time where you didn't just flash an ECU when you wanted to tune a car. You had to do some mechanical upgrades. So this has got what are known as green injectors, and that was a thing with Fords, you know, some 20, 25 years ago, is it was the colour of the injectors which would dictate how much power you're going to achieve. It's got an uprated actuator on the turbo. We've also got a blow-off valve under here, which you may be familiar with, even modern times. We've also got an uprated charge cooler, which you can't really see, and an aluminium radiator in there. And finally, it's also got a Mongoose exhaust system, which runs the length of the car, which actually sounds very nice. As standard, these put out 225 horsepower and 300 Newton meters of torque, which by today's standards are actually very low when you think that a lot of the cars you just buy from the showroom already at 250, 300, and you know, some of the more prestige luxury brands are 400, 500 horsepower. But going back 20 years, there used to be a club called the 200 plus brake horsepower club, and it was a big achievement to have over 200 horsepower. I remember going to Santa Pod and seeing Lotus Carltons and Escorts and Sierra Cosworths, you know, bragging about having more than 200 horsepower. So it's amazing how quickly things have moved on. Anyway, back to this. This is now producing, we think, around 330. It was a Motorsport Developments Stage 3 car, so we think it's about 330 all in all. Engine seems in good health. It's had a recent cam belt. The engine bay is not particularly clean, but that's good because it, you know, hasn't been pressure washed or blasted or tried to hide anything. It's a fairly, you know, honest representation of what the car is. Needs a bit of tidying up here and there, but all in all, free from corrosion, nice strong shell, and gives us something to work with moving forward. So that's the introduction to our Escort RS Cosworth. The last thing is to show you what it sounds like. That's all for now. The car's going in the trailer, off to the body shop. Once we've got an update, we'll post another video. But if you want to follow the progress, like and subscribe below. Stay tuned for more updates.